At first glance, it seems like we hear some harsh words in the gospel from Jesus today. The disciple seems reasonable here. Let me go first and bury my father. But Jesus is pointing out a very common human tendency that prevents us from growing. Excuses. We're great at them. When I was an administrator in a Catholic high school, I would love to hear the excuses that students would give to their parents for not doing well in a class. Things like, everybody failed the test, or the teacher hates me, and many, many more. Kids come up with excuses all the time. But sadly, it's not just kids. So do we. They're mostly about why we can't do what we ought to do now. We put off for tomorrow what could be done today. Letting go of sin that tags us throughout our lives is not easy. We wait until tomorrow to deal with some things. And yet Jesus reminds us starkly in the gospel about the immediacy of the call to forgiveness and change of life. The call to a life of holiness, a life of grace, a life of freedom from sin is indeed now. Today is the day to begin to change our lives for good. And yet, maybe it's too sunny, too cloudy, we're too busy, we're too tired, and yet the time is now. The Lord is calling. We're challenged to leave what is holding us back from loving more deeply and belonging more deeply to Christ. A life lived in Jesus is a gift given to others, a life that is full of joy, a life that is blessed with true satisfaction. The great Archbishop Fulton J. Sheen's television show was called Life is Worth Living. Indeed it is, now, without holding back. So let us begin to follow him more closely now, without excuses, as good as they may sound, that we may know the joy of discipleship, the joy of the gospel, and the joy of being the body of Christ.